And when I was a kid, they taught us about the great melting pot, which sort of, the idea was that all of these other sort of old world sort of identities sort of melted away into this sort of homogenous Americanness. And that really isn't the case. The people, whether they're, Italian Americans in New Jersey or Scots Irish Presbyterians here in Virginia, or, Mexican American Catholic people in Texas, there's as much about us that is predicated on difference as there is that's about this sort of overarching American identity.
We went digging to learn about the history of the Scots Irish Presbyterians in Virginia.
The narratives of Irish history, Celtic heritage, Ulster Scots coming into this part of the valley, they really fuel into the early third half of the 18th century. There's an immigration pattern down from kind of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania into these parts, so that by 1730s and 40s in what we now call the Rockbridge area, you start to see small settlements of people who are farming, developing churches, broadening families, marrying and broadening their families. So again, the traditional accounts would talk about Ulster Scots in this area from the 1730s and 40s. And if you look at things like the Borden Grant was a land patent that was given to a man named Benjamin Borden.
Well, of course, the original Borden Grant, when that was issued in 1739, was issued under the condition that Benjamin Borden could find 100 settlers to settle the land grant, and almost all of those were Scots and Irish.
If you look at the Borden Grant, you'll start to see, different names at different decades and how that gets split up and, subdivided. Church graveyards, baptismal records are important pieces. And it tends to be those families in that early period, again, many of whom are from Northern Ireland, from Scotland, who are Protestant. If you look at the oldest established churches, both in terms of congregations and also built structures, you're going to see a lot of them are Presbyterian of some flavor. So Timber Ridge in the 1740s up near Fairfield, Falling Springs down just past Fancy Hill. I think that's in the 1780s. Lexington Presbyterian, the anchored Presbyterian church here started in what is now Oak Grove Cemetery in the 1780s. So that particular Presbyterianism came out of Scotland, right?
There's some early ones, the Stone Church in Augusta County, Tinkling Springs in Fishersville. There's one down here on Whistle Creek now was originally called Hall's Meeting House. It then became Old Monmouth, New Monmouth, but then Old Monmouth. That's a long story I could explain. The Timber Ridge Church.
We're at Timber Ridge, which was the kind of ground zero for that first settlement, 1740s. And so I think if you go up to the graveyard at Timber Ridge, as well as the Old Stone Church, which is the oldest church in the county, 1746, even just walking that graveyard, and you wanted to know who are the names, that those are many of them. I won't say they are the names, but there are many of them.
Mr. Philip Clayton is a longtime resident and landowner in Rockbridge County on House Mountain. He was kind enough to let us onto his several hundred-acre property and document ruins, which very well may be from early Scots-Irish settlers in the 18th century.
A little farm, if you can picture it, we'll go around and there's a slightly easier trail down, but it goes down this little ridge here, and they've terraced the back side of the ridge. There's 3 terraces and the ruins of the old cabin and chimney, and then the well down there too, so we'll check that out. Check that out. Look at this. This is unreal. And what we can see here goes down 10 to 12 feet and you can see it's full of water. And to make this thing would be such an undertaking, you know, because they've got to trench the hole that they have to dig to make something even that deep. This just makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck when I wonder who it was who settled this. We figure the closest we can get to, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1780 to 1820. And that's because that's when the north end of the mountain was settled. And here we see what they built. Here's the cabin outline right here. This would be the door to the root cellar, which is right here. And they dug that, as I mentioned before, because the temperature underground is about 56 degrees, so it would keep things cool in the summertime. Then the fireplace would be there. And you can see how he terraced the land here. Here's a terrace running here, and there's one up there, and another one further down.
After we were able to see what is believed to be the relics of early settlers, we sought to find out what brought them here. Our first stop was Celtic Tides, a shop where two immigrants sell memorabilia and food from their homelands.
I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, and Mary Jo was a registered nurse. We were living in the West Coast, in San Diego, and decided that we wanted a career change. And we had been to Virginia previously, to Northern Virginia, where Mary Jo's brother has a Celtic store. And we'd looked after that, discovered that we enjoyed it, so figured out we could open a store here. We met, I'm from Dunfermline in Scotland. The ancient capital of Scotland, best known in America, is the birthplace of Andrew Carnegie. Mary Jo's from County Longford in Ireland. And we met in Saudi Arabia playing darts.
It's a small town area, and there is not a Celtic store within 100 miles. And historically, Rockbridge County was originally founded by Scots and Irish who came into the area. And I'm sure some Germans and whatever. But if you look around at the street names, you'll see that the names are all from the British Isles. So we decided to open up here. We've had a few people say, why didn't you go to Roanoke? But to be perfectly honest, we liked the idea of a small town. And it was a very deliberate choice that everything that comes into the store, to the very best of our ability, comes from the British Isles. You know, you can buy anything made in China if you go to Walmart, but you know, people want the authentic thing.
We found another small business owner who also displays his Celtic roots proudly, this time an Irish barber.
Came here just over 5 years ago. I came here with the intent to ride horses originally, and then things changed a little bit, and I got an apprenticeship in a barber shop in Lynchburg, and then done my apprenticeship and decided to do something here.
The Irish barber was the only person we found in Rockbridge County that could speak fluent Gaelic.
I'm an O'Brien as Anam Dum, Tommy Goni a Gilmonton, Tommy Guma.
Rockbridge County has long been defined by the universities that reside here, but in our digging, we have found that the cultural roots of this area go far beyond our student experience. From early settling families to modern-day immigrants, Rockbridge County would not be the place that it is today without Celtic heritage.
No matter where you go, as you say, there's somebody who will tell you that they're part Irish or part Scots. It might be 7 generations back, but it's important to them.
It's where you're from, you're never going to change. It's always in your heart.